and he's just going to change summoner spells. And I think they're actually pretty happy with that because as far as Lee Sin into Olaf, the early game, Lee Sin's big strengths come from his mobility and being able to choose an advantageous situation to then fight. Whereas Olaf has the actual stats to just have hand-to-hand combat with anyone and, uses the ghost to try and chase people down and just get the perma-slow with his axes.
I'd actually like you to settle an argument, Kobe. So both these junglers very much since early game junglers. Lee Sin famously does his damage work earlier than more as a peel or maybe an initiator in the late game. Olaf, it feels, also peaks earlier, but who is the stronger late game jungler? Because on paper, you're like, okay, Olaf runs through CC, kills people, but doesn't really feel like that actually happens in competitive games very often.
That's such a mean twerk question because Lee Sin's late game viability 100% relies upon how good the individual player is, piloting them. If you are the one to be able to flank around in Fog of War, get the ward hop, Sonic Wave into the back line, kick
what you're
both
saying is that Meteos is a really good Lee Sin.
Oh, jeez. He's not even up there, man. But honestly, yeah, that's really the big difference. Like, Olaf is so much simpler, easier to execute, whereas the margin for error on Lee Sin is huge in the late game. And, yes, a lot of people will take Lee Sin and they'll be like, oh, my goodness, I saw this on the world stage. I feel like I have no idea what to do in the late game because it's so difficult to see those openings, plan them out ahead of time, and then react appropriately as the reactions of your opponents come out one by one in the late game. Lee Sin, one of the most popular champions, also one of the lowest win rate champions.
I guess the only small thing I'd say in defense of Lee Sin is that at least he can peel. At least the kick can be used defensively in the late game, whereas Olaf is famously very one-way, can fight next to carries, but isn't quite the Lee Sin in that way.
Right, that was one of the buffs that the balance team did to Lee Sin to try and make him, more of an all-around champion. So it would be easier for people who weren't quite as gifted, let's say, on Lee Sin, to also have a pretty big impact. He, on the ultimate, would you get that kick damage if you kick him through people, then they take more percentage health damage. But still, he's definitely still in that same spot where you better be good or you better have a lot of games.
And I feel like that plays more as well as we get into Worlds because it showed that people weren't playing against him much coming in, in Dynamic Q, whatever you're playing, but they were getting caught out by that kick, the flash kick, just the jump kick, that they're going to play against that better in the coming weeks.
I mean, Lee Sin has been the playmaking jungler du jour. Svenskeren has excelled on that. It was banned away, and TSM still picked up a win, but didn't have that same oomph in the early game. So it's always a happy meta when Lee Sin's around. Over in LCK, we had those two Lee Sin pickers, the two people that held out with the meta being elsewhere. But when it's available to everyone, the aggressive-minded junglers, they're licking their lips.
Yeah, and as we have some more time here, as we're still waiting on that switch out, we always have to bring in the team comps when we discuss individual champions because they're never in isolation. And Lee Sin does have a pairing with Aurelion Sol, talking about the mobility advantage and being able to choose your advantageous situation in which to fight, thereby, making up for some of the loss of stats that you may have in the 1v1. Aurelion Sol roaming. Lee Sin's great at capitalizing on those fights because Aurelion Sol, biggest thing he does is control a huge area within the skirmish. If you can have a jungle skirmish with Aurelion Sol at your back, it really opens up a lot of playmaking for Lee Sin.
I feel like the Flash Rolls are looking... The previous game is hopefully a preview of what they're going to be able to do because it was Huhi and Xmithy with Aurelion Sol Nidalee. I think that's perhaps the most powerful of duos, but Lee Sin and Aurelion Sol certainly no slack either, and it's also Maple and Karsa. These two are the dynamic duo that have always been there for the Flash Wolves. So really exciting to see if they can actually have that early game.
And there is going to be pressure on them because, as we said, the margin for error is very low. And Olaf has Ghost, and he's going to have priority in the early game.
We all know what Olaf's going to do.
If you fight him in the heads up and you don't take advantage of these 2-versus-1 situations to try and both focus and DPS someone down, Olaf is a monster early.
I also like the Rumble pick against it as well because they're going to be coming in with the Lee Sin, with the Aurelion Sol, and you're going to have a red carpet to roll over on that's going to slow you down. So as well, that lets Olaf get into the back line. It's going to be able to do a lot of damage. We're just about to get ready and get back into the champion select. They are going to be the same up until that point with Bang Summoner's switch. So almost good to go. We are about to get into that SKT matchup, and we'll see what they can get done against the Flash Wolves. Back into picks and bans, you did see that Aurelion Sol get hovered by Maple, and it will be a lock-in.
Caitlyn also for the laning phase, looking for a complete bottom lane for SKT, and they're not going to respect the Caitlyn. Going to be going for the Sivir and Karma. Very much a compositional pick.
Yeah, you know, another NL champion here, the Caitlyn.
And we got what we wanted.
The Ezreal. The Alistar on Sword Eye. There you go, Papa. He's definitely going to take that, and definitely going to be the Thunderlords. This guy is the one to watch as far as Fog of War plays as well. And they will have a similar combo to CLG to see if they can actually pull it off in a similar fashion.
Flash Wolves spent so much time ahead, but when these Pokems didn't have Engage, if you ever get a vision advantage with Poppy, Lee Sin, Aurelion Sol, and Alistar, the ping pong that can happen for the carries is unbelievable. This is definitely a comp that if it gets ahead, can be oppressive to play against, because you even go up to your Raptors, you even go up to your Krugs, and you can be bouncy castle to death.
Definitely a tremendous amount of similarities. However, this time around, we focus so heavily on this Aurelion Sol because he had such a big impact before. On the side of SKT, they have Sivir and Karma. That's so much speed for the Olaf. We talk about Olaf, you know, and him going one way. That train is going to be moving very quickly.
The put all your eggs in the blank basket comp.